Democratic Progressive Party President Andrew Mwansa, thank you so much for joining me on the stage tonight.
Thank you so much, and good evening to the viewers.
With exactly 184 days to go before the country goes to the polls, how prepared is your party?
We are doing everything to make sure that we provide a leadership to the country that is a clear alternative to what people are looking for. We are on the ground making sure that we're creating structures, but also we are talking to the Zambian people using different platforms like this one to make sure that our message reaches out to the masses. The idea is to sell what we stand for. What is it that we want to do for this country in all the critical sectors of the economy? And as a party, we are working every single day to make sure that we continue to strengthen our presence on the ground, but also to continue being the alternative to the people of Zambia who are crying for a different direction.
You've remained mute on issues of alliances, whilst your colleagues from the opposition are trying to consolidate and enter into marriages with other political parties. You seem not to be interested in these political alliances. Does that mean that you want to go alone in this election?
Yeah, so first of all, it is extremely important that we realize that unity of purpose is important, especially for all of us in the opposition. But the key word is unit of purpose. So what is the purpose? Is the purpose just to remove President Hakainde Hichilema from power and replace him with ourselves and share positions as political party leaders? What is the purpose of this unity? We as Democratic Progressive Party, we believe that the purpose must be Zambia and the Zambian people. So for us, our focus as far as the alliances is concerned is that first of all, alliances must be built on trust, honesty, and a clear economic and political roadmap for this country. Any alliance that does not provide an economic agenda to improve the livelihood of the Zambian people, any alliance that does not have a clear economic path to reduce the cost of living, to create millions of jobs for our young people who don't have jobs, to reduce the cost of running business, to reduce taxes, and to make sure that Zambia benefits from the natural resource that we have, that alliance does not benefit the Zambian people. It will benefit the politicians. So an alliance which is simply to remove the UPND and replace it with ourselves does not help the Zambian people, because you know what will happen? The politicians don't lose. The politicians, some will be ministers, some will be members of parliament, some will be ambassadors, and so on. But the question we need to ask is, when we come together, what is the purpose? So an alliance that is only interested in change of government so that we can give ourselves political power and positions without giving a clear economic agenda for this country is not an alliance that must be supported.
There's a number of alliances.
Our position as DPP, therefore, is that any alliance that we're going to go into must be based on a clear economic agenda for this country. And we have been talking to different political stakeholders. We are talking to our colleagues in the opposition. We are having meetings with them, and we encourage the opposition to come together, but it should be a coming together on the basis of a clear economic agenda for the benefit of the Zambian people, and not simply to share positions.
For the Democratic Party members that across the country and that don't know exactly which alliances you're speaking with, would you mind to tell the Zambians which alliances you're engaging with so actively?
As a party, the constitution of the DPP is very clear that any alliance, the decision to join an alliance or to leave an alliance is solely in the hands of the Central Committee. So as leaders, we will continue to engage various stakeholders. But whether we will be in an alliance or not will be strictly the preserve of the Central Committee of the DPP. The Central Committee has to make that decision. That decision cannot be made by me as president. It can be made by anybody in the party apart from the Central Committee of the party.
You don't think you're running out of time as the opposition, you know, to consolidate your relationships, to ensure that you have all that you need to have in one place? Because there's only a few days remaining. 184 days is not, you know, so many days to go before the elections. You don't think you have not much time, Mr. President?
I think first of all is that the people of Zambia know what they need, and that's the most important thing, that the people of Zambia know exactly what they need. I think the people of Zambia are looking forward to an opposition that provides clear, credible checks and balances, because our role as opposition is to provide checks and balances, and number two is to provide an alternative policy to the current ruling UPND. And our job as opposition is not simply to shout and to exchange words and to use bitterness and hate and anger against those that are in government. Our job is to hold the UPND accountable and make sure that when they go wrong, we raise that voice, but also that we provide a clear alternative for the people of Zambia. So for as long as the opposition does not realize the dual role that we need to play to provide credible checks and balances and also to provide alternative policy, there isn't much hope we can give to the Zambian people if we do not present to the Zambian people an alternative policy on agriculture, on mining, on education, on health. The Zambian people are more concerned about what will happen to them tomorrow. Will they have the money to pay their rentals? Will they have the money to take their child to school? Will they have the money to pay if their child is sick? They are more worried about the cost of living. They are worried about the cost of rent. They are worried about the cost of running business. They are worried about the high taxes. They are worried about the fact that this country is benefiting more foreign interest in terms of foreign direct investment, and it's not benefiting more the Zambian people. So us as DPP, that's why our focus is on the issue of not only providing credible checks and balances and holding the UPND accountable, but also ensuring that we have got a clear alternative. So if the opposition doesn't provide that, then the Zambian people lose hope, trust, and confidence in the opposition.
It's good you're talking about...
We have to provide Zambians with a clear alternative.
It's good you're speaking about alternatives, because the feedback we get from the station, from people that call and people that we interact with, they'll tell you two things. It's either they're satisfied with the UPND or dissatisfied. Among those that are dissatisfied with the UPND, they'll tell you that, yes, the UPND have failed, but there isn't, any alternative that is looking serious that we can usher, into office. Do such sentiments worry you as opposition that are trying to do everything possible, to get this power from the UPND, that the people don't seem to appreciate the work that you're putting in? The people don't seem to look at you, opposition as alternative.
I think it is incumbent for us as opposition political parties to listen to what the people are saying. I've got a son, my firstborn son is 23 years. And I can tell you that when he looks at the quality of discussion, the quality of discourse on the political terrain, it doesn't give him a lot of hope, because we are focusing on petty personal issues. We spend a lot of time as political parties discussing petty personal issues at the expense of the things that matter to the Zambian people. I think from the feedback that we are getting from the people, we must focus ourselves on issues that affect the people of Zambia. If we don't focus on the things affecting the people of Zambia, the high cost of living, the high cost of rent, the high cost of doing business, the lack of jobs, the lack of business opportunities, if we don't focus on these issues, then we don't have any right to have the support of the Zambian people. So it is our responsibility as opposition political parties, including those in government, to listen to what the people are saying and to use the people's sentiments as the basis to craft a strategy and our message as we go towards 2026. So it's good feedback, and we have to listen to what people say.
And do you think you've done enough as really opposition to sell yourselves, to get your message across to the people? Because for people that seem to paint a narrative or seem to suggest that the opposition really hasn't done so much to present themselves as an attractive alternative to the UPND.
So we did a statement as DPP one day, and I think what our analysis was then is true today. Currently, we must face the reality. The truth is that as we stand today on the 10th of February 2026, there is no one single opposition leader who has the resources, the structural arrangement, and the reach to single-handedly claim that they can win the 2026 general election. Anyone who claims that individually they can win the 2026 general election as an individual opposition political leader today, they are lying. The only way that can happen is if the opposition political parties realize the need to work together but also to work on a clear economic agenda.
Why is it taking so much time for you, the opposition, to reorganize yourselves and unite? Because it seems all of you want to become president at the same time.
I think it's a history of our politics. We have had the alliances since independence. And the history of our alliances is that they have not worked. And some of the reasons why these alliances don't work is because of lack of honesty. A lot of time you hear politicians saying, I'm ready to be led. But what they mean is that, look, I am ready to be led, or I'm ready to support anybody. But in reality, they don't mean that. First of all, we must be very clear that you can't stop personal ambitions of people. If somebody wants to be president, you can't stop them. It's their democratic right. It's their personal ambition to be president. But also, secondly, we need to be honest with ourselves when we want to form these alliances. Are these alliances meant for other political parties, for instance, the Democratic Progressive Party, to push you as your personal agenda? Are these alliances meant to swallow other political opponents? Because remember that when you go into an alliance, there's also a price that you're going to pay. You are sacrificing your entire political party to another political party. And are you willing, as a political party, to be swallowed by another political party? The people that want to lead you, do you believe that they have got the integrity, they have got the commitment, they have got what it takes to run this country? But also, what is more importantly is, what is it that we are bringing on the table? You have repeatedly said there are 184 days before elections. The question is, what do we bring on the table? The people listening to this program today are more interested to hear what DPP provides, and as far as issues of the cost of living is concerned, job creation is concerned, peace and unity of the country is concerned. They are more interested in the things that affect their personal lives on a daily basis. Are we doing that as opposition political parties? We must challenge ourselves, and this is a call to all opposition political parties. Let us challenge ourselves. Let us listen to what the people are saying and focus on the issues affecting the people.
Are you ready to be led?
We have made it very clear, even in the meetings where we have been, that we are ready to provide our platform to be used as a vehicle. And also, we are ready to support anybody that we can have consensus around and agree that this person has the political and economic acumen, they have the personal character, they have the commitment to this country, that they have what it takes to provide the leadership that we need. Remember that it is not just a game of uka kanefipuna. And I've said this because politicians don't suffer. And let me make it very clear that any alliance that is built simply to remove the UPND from power and giving ourselves positions does not serve the interest of the Zambian people. When we want to remove the UPND, we should be very clear. What economic agenda are we pushing? What economic agenda do we give to the people of Zambia? Is it an issue of politicians? Is it an issue of us removing one group and we go there, we end up being ministers, members of parliament, ambassadors, and still neglect the people of Kalingalinga who need water, who need electricity, who need business opportunities, who need jobs, and who need an opportunity to take their children to a school that has got teachers, that has got books, that has got all the equipments that we need. So our focus should not be just about power for the sake of power itself. Our focus must be, if we are given an opportunity by the Zambian people to lead, what is it that we are going to do in return?
Speaking of what it is that you're going to do for the Zambian people, does the DPP currently have a manifesto?
Yeah, so we need to be very holistic as a country. One of the challenges that we have as a country is that we don't own or control the economy. And for as long as the economy is in the hands of foreign investors, it doesn't matter what we do, this economy will not work for the Zambian people. Let's, for instance, talk about mining. His Excellency, the President, was in South Africa. We were told that there's been huge investments in the mining sector. We have had 1 million metric tons, about 839,000 to 1 million metric tons of copper that has been produced.
890,000.
890,000. Okay, 890,000 metric tons of copper that has been produced. The question we ought to ask ourselves is, who is benefiting from that copper? Who is benefiting from that copper? Because what is happening in this country is, this same copper is owned and controlled by foreign investors. When this copper is mined, it is taken to Switzerland, it is taken to Beijing, it is taken to America and Europe. These countries have set up processing and manufacturing industries. They are employing hundreds of thousands of young people in these industries using our raw material, copper, which they're getting from Mufulira and other parts of the copper belt. Zambia, despite being one of the major exporters of copper, is still languishing in poverty. If you go to the copper belt is one of the poorest provinces that we have as a country. So the copper is not benefiting the Zambian people. It is benefiting the foreign investors who are mining it and selling it. The role that Zambians are playing is the role of laborers. Okay, that's our job. To go and mine the copper for foreigners. And the foreigners are getting the copper and selling it and making profits and setting up industries in their countries, while Zambia and Zambians continue to wallow in poverty. What we propose, as far as the mining industry is concerned, as Democratic Progressive Party, are the following. First of all, ownership must be in the hands of Zambia and Zambians. Now, I'm talking about not less than 51% of all major mines must be owned and controlled by the Zambian people. The Zambian people must have the majority shareholding. That will help us to make the decisions that we need. That will help us to make sure that the money is not shipped out of the country, but the money remains in this country.
So will this be for the greenfield mines, or you are going to change the entire economic order that we already set for ourselves as a country? What will happen, for example, to already existing mines? Are you going to change the share value of these mines? What will happen?
So there are two things that we're going to do. Going forward, we will not allow any new mine to be opened and to be given solely in the hands of foreigners. No. Any mine that will be opened, whether it is for copper, for gold, the majority shareholding must go to the people of Zambia. Not less than 51% of any new mining should be in the hands of the Zambian people. For the current existing mining, we have development agreements that we have signed with the mining firms. And we want to assure them that we are not disruptive, but that we will use the legal means to sit down with the mining conglomerates and with our legal teams, our experts, to see how best we can restructure some of these mineral agreements. Where we cannot afford to restructure these mineral agreements because of the way these contracts have been embedded, it is our duty as government, DPP government, to make sure that we maximize the returns, that is in form of taxes. That's why for us, these are the following things that we need to do. So number one, I've talked about ownership. Number two is tax. Can you imagine that the mines, despite contributing over 70% to the foreign exchange and to the foreign exchange earnings this country has, it only contributes less than 15% to the GDP. And the tax holidays that these mines have continued to be given is benefiting them at the expense of the Zambian people. And if you look at for 2026, 2025, 2026 national budget, you see that the tax burden has been put on the Zambian people. Okay? And the mineral mining giants have been given tax holidays and tax breaks. We shall cancel those tax breaks. And we shall give tax holidays and tax breaks to the small and medium scale enterprises, because they're the ones who need this money. They're the ones who are broke. They're the ones who don't have the capital. Okay? So the tax holidays will go. We shall cancel them. But also, secondly, one of the things that we're going to do is to make sure that we've got clear mechanisms developed by our experts at Zambia Revenue Authority and our experts at the Ministry of Mines. We need to track down how much copper are we producing, how much copper are we actually selling, because we don't have those hard figures to know how much we are producing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and on a monthly basis. We need to know how much minerals are we producing and how much are we exporting. Number two, we shall ban the exportation of raw copper. For instance, copper cathodes. We shall not allow our copper to be exported as raw cathodes. Because when we export this copper outside, you know what is happening? They are setting up industries in Europe, America, and China using our copper to process and to manufacture different products. Under the DPP, the manufacturing and processing of all these mineral proceeds must be done here. So any mining firm that wants to work with us, we are going to tell them that you are going to set up a manufacturing and processing plant so that we can process and manufacture our own products here and then sell them at high value. That way we increase the foreign exchange that we earn. That way we create the millions of jobs that our young people need today in this country. That way we add value to our national reserve. That way we strengthen the kwacha against the major compatible currencies.
The president speaks of the success story of Zambia's mining sector. He says that from the time he came into office up until now, we've attracted over $14 billion, in the mining sector, but also the high production of copper that we're seeing is as a result of the consistent, mining, regime that this administration, has put in place. Also, they claim that at the time that the previous administration was in place, a number of mines were not operational or were not operating to their full extent. And now, mining is no longer done in the courts; it's done, at the mining site. What have you noticed that this UPND government has done wrong in terms of their mining regime that you'd like to change?
So we have been mining since 1890. Okay, we just have to put this thing in perspective. We've been mining since 1890. The question we need to answer is who is benefiting from the mining activities? Who is benefiting from the huge mining investment? Who is benefiting from the huge mining copper deposits that we are getting out of this country? It is not the people of the copper belt. Because if you go to Zambia Revenue Authority, ZRA, and go and check what is happening, here are the facts. We have about 3.9 million Zambians that are in formal employment, about 3.9 million Zambians. Of that number, over 1 million Zambians, which is a third of the Zambians in formal employment, are getting a salary of between 1,500 kwacha and 2,500 kwacha. In an economy where the cost of living continues to skyrocket. If you go to the copper belt, you will see that in as far as economic activities are concerned, in as far as people having money in their pockets, in as far as people having money to run their businesses and to run their affairs, that is not happening. The poverty levels in this country are at 64%. This is the latest government statistics, meaning that 6 out of every 10 Zambians in the copper belt are poor. And if you go to the rural copper belt, 7 out of every 10 people on the copper belt are poor. So the question is not how many mines we open. The question is, how much value are we getting from the mines? The question is, how much value are we getting from the copper that we're exporting? That is a question that we ought to answer. Yes, we've opened these mines, and that is a good thing. But what we urge the president and the government to do is now to look at the tax regime, to make sure that the mines benefit the Zambian people. Government must cancel these tax breaks that have given to the mining companies. Number two, if you look at the financial reports that are coming from credible sources, we are losing up to $4 billion every 12 months, $4 billion from the mining sector alone, through tax avoidance, tax evasion, transfer pricing. The government must focus on closing these loopholes because we need that money. That is the money that we can invest in the energy sector so we can have money to make sure that Mopani Indeni is working and to reduce the cost of fuel. We can have money to reduce the electricity tariffs. That can come from the mining sector where we are losing over $4 billion every month. What government must work on is the share structure. The minerals are there to benefit the Zambian people, not to benefit the investors who come to Zambia. You can do a very small analysis. You go to the mining area today. Who are on the ground digging? It is you and me, our own people. They're the ones who are doing the labor to mine the copper. The question is, who is benefiting from that copper? Is it just a salary of 3,000 kwacha? Is it just the dumps that we have? Is it just the pollution and the degradation of the entire ecosystem?
Copper is just but one of the minerals that this country is endowed with. There's also gold deposits that have been discovered across the country, and this has been a huge debate on how we formalize, especially the artisanal miners. I know that you don't like the term illegal miners that have been chased, but if you're in the shoes of President Hakainde Hichilema, how were you going to deal with this illegal mining that we are experiencing in our country, especially with the gold subsector?
Yeah, so right now, as we're speaking, the price of gold at the international market is $5,000 an ounce. $5,000 an ounce. And Zambia has been blessed with gold. You know, sometimes you sit and wonder, what is wrong with us? And that's the reason why, for me, for instance, that song by Nathan Irenda Mama Kofi really resonates with me, because God has given us everything that we need. He's given us a mineral deposit. He's given us the land. He's given us water. He's given us everything. What is missing is a strategic management to ensure that these resources are in the hands of Zambians, that Zambia and Zambians own and control these resources. Now let's look at the gold subsector. First of all, we want to make it very clear that we commend the work that the Zambia Army has done to remove the illegal miners. This must be made very clear. We shouldn't be playing with national security. Where illegal mining has not been curbed, where illegal mining has been allowed to operate as a free flow, we have seen what has been happening in Congo, we are seeing what is happening in Mali, in Chad, and we know that when you don't control the mining activities, especially for precious minerals like gold, you risk national security. So as DPP, we want to put on record that we support the decision that was taken by the president, and we support the work that has been done by the Zambia Army to make sure that they get rid of all illegal miners, because that was a threat to national security, and we don't apologize for supporting things that are in the interest of the Zambian people. Number two, gold must be used as a strategic mineral. Our position as DPP is that we shall not allow any foreigner to go into the mining of gold. Gold must be mined and must be preserved for the young people of this country. The Zambian youths, the Zambian women are the ones that are supposed to own and control the mining of gold. Our strategy is very simple. What we expect the government to do, and this they need to take it because this is credible advice. Number one, there's need for government to do an audit of all the young people that are interested, those that have been operating in these areas, those that are interested to operate in these areas. They need to organize them into cooperatives. But these cooperatives must be given the necessary knowledge. There is need to train our young people to understand the industry, but also to appreciate what is it that they need to do to successfully run the gold mining sector. Number two, government must be the guarantor to guarantee the loan facilitation. These small and medium scale miners must be given loans that are guaranteed by the state. Our young people need those loans. Yes, you give them the mining licenses, you give them the training, then you give them the loans to buy the equipment that they need. But also, even if they are given the loans to buy the equipment that they need, government must put in place systems to monitor what is happening and to make sure that there is production and that this production is actually sustainable. And all those proceeds must be sold to the Bank of Zambia through the Zambia Consolidated Copper Mines Investment Holdings, ZCCM-IH. The gold must be used as a strategic reserve. It will help to boost our national reserves. It will help to strengthen our culture, and it will help to create business and job opportunities for the young people. But also, lastly, there is need for us to set up gold industries, which are owned and run by the Zambian youth. The Zambian women, the Zambian young people are the ones who are supposed to take charge of this. And if government can do those things, I can tell you that within a very short period of time, you can see that there can be economic activities in provinces like Northwestern Province, in provinces like Copperbelt Province, in provinces like Central Province, where we have discovered these gold deposits. So kudos to the Zambia Army, kudos to the president, but these strategic activities must be put in place to make sure that gold should be treated as a strategic mineral, only to be mined by Zambia.
You don't think that is what
no foreigners
government is currently doing? Because that's the same language that Minister of Mines, Poka Buswe, uses. The exact words you've used on how they can formalize the.
So government has to do that. So there's a difference. Us in the opposition, we can only provide alternatives and we can provide advice. They have the instruments of power and they must implement. So government must implement this. And look, government has a lot to learn from the implementation of this sector, they have a lot to learn from the way CDF has been handled, especially specifically to deal with issues of loans. Because the loans that have gone to many of these cooperatives have not been productive. They have been bad loans, and the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Youth and Sport have said that many people that have gotten these loans from government, either CDF loans or loans from the Ministry of Youth, have not paid back the loans. So government must also learn lessons as to why people fail to pay back the loans. One of the reasons why they fail to pay back the loans is because the system has not been built to ensure that only deserving people are given the loans. First of all, you must identify who is supposed to get the loans.
Yep.
Secondly, you must provide the necessary information, the necessary training, and thirdly, you must have very strong monitoring and monitoring mechanisms to ensure that the people that get these loans actually pay back. So government has a lot to learn from how the CDF loans, for instance, have not been performing.
We're going into these elections with an amended constitution. We have a new electoral system now. There's an introduction of the mixed member proportional representation, that supports the coming in of 40, new members to parliament, 15 women, 10 youth and 5 persons living with disabilities. But also what's interesting is that there's going to be a creation of 70 new constituencies. And we did see the Electoral Commission last week having a briefing to officially launch the delimitation exercise. I would like to get the position of the DP, or the DPP, in terms of these developments that are coming from the Electoral Commission of Zambia, that they've launched the delimitation exercise and that there's going to be a creation of 70 new constituencies.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, and allow me to answer a number of things relating to this. First of all, we are meeting the Electoral Commission of Zambia tomorrow, officially, as stakeholders to make submissions. And I would like to encourage all the stakeholders to make sure that tomorrow we meet at Mulungushi and we raise the concerns that we have. We must engage, and engage in an effective way. As Democratic Progressive Party, on the onset of, based on the meeting that we had last time with the Electoral Commission of Zambia, we've put our own recommendations. The ECZ is also developing the new Electoral Process Act to marry the now mixed proportional representation that is part of our constitution and electoral order. Our position is that, number one, the ECZ is proposing to remove the official mark on the ballot paper. We find that to be extremely, extremely worrying, and we strongly oppose that proposal by the Electoral Commission of Zambia to remove the official mark on the ballot papers. Because how do we guarantee the authenticity of these ballot papers? How do we know whether these ballot papers are Changanya or these ballot papers are for ECZ? The Electoral Commission of Zambia must know that the issue of elections is not an issue only a process of how it is done, but that it should develop confidence. The process must give confidence to the Zambian people. People must know that their votes will be counted and that their votes will be tallied correctly and that their votes will be reflected the way they are. So the proposal in the electoral process bill to remove the official mark is a wrong proposal. And we strongly oppose that. That is our position, that we need to facilitate, we need to put safeguards to authenticate the ballot papers. You can't have any piece of paper, because if you don't have those security features, how do we know this ballot paper is a genuine ballot paper and this one is a fake ballot paper if there are no security features? So ECZ must strengthen the security features. They must strengthen the layers to make sure that people have got the confidence in the electoral process, that they have the confidence in the ballots, and we oppose that. Number two, the Electoral Commission of Zambia says that only registered political parties whose secretary generals are registered as office bearers at the registrar of societies should sign the adoption certificates. Now, this is problematic. First of all, Mwanza, office bearers are different from office holders. There is no rule which says for one to be secretary general of a political party, they must be office bearers at the registrar of societies. No. How one becomes a Secretary General of a political party is solely the preserve of the constitution of that political party. I know for certain that the Patriotic Front, the UPND itself, and the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, ourselves, a Secretary General is appointed by the President of the party. Is not necessarily supposed to be a member or to be part of the office bearers at the Registrar of Societies. So to impose that the one to sign on the adoption certificate must be the Secretary General and must be a person who is also Secretary General at the Registrar of Societies is wrong.
It's funny thing because
totally wrong.
We're the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Chief Electoral Officer Brian Kasara just on Sunday on Costa, and this question was asked to him, and he refused that the rules of engagement haven't changed. The same qualifications for a candidate to contest haven't changed.
No. So let's be clear. The qualification for contesting elections is embedded in the Constitution.
Yes.
And nothing has changed. But the adoption certificate, according to the bill that the Electoral Commission of Zambia has proposed, is that for you to be a member of parliament, for you to be a council chairperson, for you to be a councillor, and to be a mayor, mayoral candidate, parliamentary candidate, and council candidates, that the certificates of these candidates, the adoption certificates must be signed by the Secretary General of the party, who is registered as an office bearer at the Registrar of Societies. Now, I'm saying that is problematic because to begin with, office bearers are not necessarily members of or officials in the structure of the party. An office bearer is just who that is. Some office bearers are actually members of the structure of the party, but some are not. So to demand that a Secretary General must be an office bearer, must be registered at the Registrar of Societies as an office bearer, and must be the one to sign the adoption certificate is wrong, because now ECZ is making a new rule, and we're against that. Secondly, on this same score, political party adoptions are normally an open, transparent activity. Central committees meet, district committees, provincial committees, constituency committees of political parties meet, and they choose amongst those that want to contest the elections. And they present these names to the body above them, and it goes to the National Executive Committee. So it's a transparent process, and therefore there must be safeguards. Our proposal is that ECZ can maintain the current status quo, the way it is done. If they want to change, then they shouldn't impose that the Secretary General must be registered at the Registrar of Societies. If they want to maintain, to change, they shouldn't impose that it should be the SG. Instead, political parties within themselves, they can choose that the President and the Secretary General will be the ones to sign on the adoption certificates. These are internal processes that ECZ should not interfere with. They're internal political processes within the political parties. You know, you risk a situation where you can have a cantankerous Secretary General, for instance, who can start using that position to issue illegal adoption certificates, and can be selling adoption certificates. The Electoral Commission of Zambia must leave this part of adoption certificates to internal processes, allow the political parties themselves to make decisions on this matter. It shouldn't be the matter of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is there to manage the elections at national level, not to manage the internal processes of political parties. It is wrong for ECZ to try to manage the internal processes of how political parties choose people.
You don't think
that
they have a point in putting up that measure? I'll give you an example. That today we are seeing factions of different political parties. For example, there's, I don't know how many factions of the Patriotic Front, there's factions of the NDC. So for example, here's Emmanuel Malite that feels, because Emmanuel Malite is part of the faction of the NDC, and he says that they are the right, office holders at the Registrar of Societies. So if there's an election in Chawama, he files in, his candidature. Then there's NDC of Savo Imboila as well, and they do the same. So don't you think this creates confusion if you leave it to the internal process of the party? Because then the Electoral Commission is left in the dark on how they must vet who is the right NDC, who is the right PF. So don't you think they're coming from that background?
You see, we really appreciate what the Electoral Commission of Zambia is trying to do. But instead, if they really want to authenticate which Secretary General is this and from which faction, then what the Electoral Commission of Zambia can do is to say, can we have a two-tier verification system? The president, who is, because the president is normally part of the people, normally, in many ways, part of the people at the registrar of societies as office bearers, they can say, let us have a two authenticated way. There is the Secretary General and the president of the political party. Two of them signing together to authenticate the authenticity of that adoption.
Obviously, this still has been a very debatable issue around delimitation. There's always suspicions, you know, especially by you, the opposition, that you know, the ruling party would want to use the process of delimitation to ensure that they delimitate constituencies where they're strong, so that it gives them that political advantage, you know, to win seats easily. Is this one of the concerns that you have, or perhaps you have full faith, you know, in the commission to do a good job?
No, you see, politics are very competitive and polarizing in nature. And there's nothing wrong with people thinking that the ruling party would want to take advantage of the delimitation process and delimit constituencies where they are going to give themselves an advantage. This is the reason why we are saying all Zambians must take into consideration the delimitation report which is coming on the 15th. We need to critique that delimitation report against the provisions of the law, because the Constitution clearly states what necessitates the delimitation process. And when we get that delimitation report, we must test it. Are those 70 new constituencies have then been delimited in line with the provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia? It is up to us, all of us as stakeholders, to interrogate that delimitation report. It is in our interest as stakeholders to make sure that we go through that delimitation report line by line. That's why it is gazetted. For now, as a party, we are confident that the Electoral Commission of Zambia will follow the guide of the Constitution. And when we get that report, we will make sure that we read it line by line and to see whether the Electoral Commission of Zambia's work on the 70 constituencies is in line with what the provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia says. Our message to all our colleagues is that let us robustly, effectively engage the Electoral Commission of Zambia, because you know that the process of elections and the credibility of election is not only on the voting day. Every activity which is happening now, up to the voting day, up to the announcement of elections, up to the declaration of who is a winner and who is a loser, these processes are of important value. And therefore, we must make sure, all of us as stakeholders, that we engage and we follow through these processes. And this is why, for instance, these meetings, ourselves as DPP, we have taken them very seriously. Even tomorrow's meeting at ECZ, we are taking it very serious, and we make sure that there's the highest representation from our party at the ECZ, because these processes are important.